everyone, and KRON4 is your election headquarters. Three of the leading candidates to replace Governor Newsom in the recall faced off on a debate right here on this set last night.
And to break it down, we're joined by political analyst Michael Yaki. Good morning, Michael. You watched the debate.
Good morning.
What were your first impressions?
A couple of things. One, I was surprised that no one took a shot at Larry Elder. I guess they figured that he had already gotten enough bad press that day with the revelation about from his ex-fiancee about him waving a gun at her. But I think that what surprised me was that Kevin Kiley, really, honestly, Kevin Kiley was the one who surprised me the most. I didn't know much about him going in, and he came across as someone who was, trying to be reasonable, and I loved his pitch of, hey, it's just a year. If you don't like it, go back to the way it was. It's a little flippant, but this is a kind of election that's going to turn on people's impressions, and I thought he made a good impression last night.
Kind of a twist on the "what have you got to lose" argument. Yeah.
What about the other two? Give me your highlight, or what stood out about.
Well, I think what people underestimate about Cox is that John Cox is that he did run for governor against Gavin Newsom. He got 38%,
right,
which doesn't seem like a lot, but if that's the Republican base, and if he can manage to reawaken that and make people remind them, I'm the guy you voted for against Gavin a couple of years ago. He tried to do that, and he tried to appeal to that part of the Republican base that's activated against Newsom, and quite frankly, it's kind of the Trumpian base. So he did what he needed to do. Faulconer, I think, is in a tough position. Faulconer is probably the kind of candidate that Newsom would not want to face next year in a general election. He's moderate. He is sort of the more generic, compassionate, conservative George Bush type of Republican. And in this kind of scenario, when you're trying to essentially break out of a pack, it's like a primary but not a primary. It's going to be harder for him. He's the one who's broken out and started talking about Larry Elder and the terrible and misogynistic statements he's made about women. But when you look at the polls, women favor Newsom much more heavily than they do anyone in terms of no on the recall. That kind of information, I think, actually helps drive that even further. I don't know if it actually helps Faulconer in the bottom of the ballot when it comes to, well, am I going to pick someone? He maybe he will, maybe he won't.
Right.
I'm not too sure, but he's someone who is sort of the conundrum of the California Republican Party embodied writ large, which is you want to be moderate, you want to be in the middle, but that's not where the base is. So he's got a tough road ahead.
Did you see any one of the three winning on any of the big issues? Like when we did the KRON4 poll, a big issue was, for example, homelessness.
Right.
Let's take a look at that one. What did you think they had to say about that, and did anybody come out a winner there?
It's interesting because it was very, I was surprised at how, I would say, moderate they were. I think the only one who was sort of put them in rehab and get them off the streets was John Cox. And again, that's his modus operandi. He wants to appeal to that more conservative base. Faulconer, Kiley, they were much more moderate on those issues. Faulconer talked about his role as mayor of San Diego, which will, I think, in terms of how people view the executive role of governor, help him out a little bit. Kiley, though, was, I think, the interesting one. Kiley was the one who kept on saying things like, I'm the outsider, I've been trying my best, I would call a special session, all these sorts of things that try and make him seem like he's fresh, a fresh face, and that's what his continued message continued to be throughout the entire debate.
Oh, what about COVID, which was also a huge topic,
big one, yeah.
And voters are really watching how they would handle that.
Yeah, what's interesting is that all of them, said, well, I got vaccinated and everyone should get vaccinated and vaccinations are way out. But I'm not going to tell anyone to get vaccinated.
Right.
And that's the kind of mixed message that's out there that needs to be addressed because the core part of the folks who are not getting vaccinated happen to reside. I would say there's a direct correlation between the people who put on the recall and people who don't want to get vaxxed. They have to do a better job of taking leadership on this. Now, Has anyone been able to solve that nut yet? No. I didn't see anything coming from any of them other than to say, get your shot, but I'm not going to tell you to get your shot. I'm not going to make you get your shot. Do anything different than what we have right now. And again, part of what they have to do is make a case as to why you need to get the guy out of the horseshoe in Sacramento, that's the governor, and replace them with them in the middle of their term. And they've got to create that kind of message. Other than the one thing they did do, though, they did do a good job of indicting Gavin Newsom. That's good. That they did do a fairly good job of doing that. But again, the issue is this isn't a race. This is a recall, and the dynamics are a lot different.
Okay.
We'll see what happens when the recall date arrives and when the votes are tallied.
The ballots are in the mail. I got my ballot the other day.
Me too.
That's right.
I just sent it out yesterday.
In fact, a quick reminder to everybody, go to KRON4.com. We've got a section on what to look for with that ballot, how to fill it out, the important dates and everything else.
Thanks, Michael.
We'll be right back.
How to write in Daria's name. Yes.
We'll be great.
See you.